It's not very fun. It's not really cool. It's like, Bob, what'd you do this weekend? I registered my work online. But it is something you have to do. It's called copywriting your work. I put together a quick little tutorial on how to do that, so let's take a look at that right now. Alright, so in this video, I want to talk to you about the not so sexy world of copywriting images. This video is going to cover how to copyright both your photos and your artwork if you happen to do both, in my case. And it's a pretty straightforward, if not, somewhat boring process, but I'm going to give you some tips here. I've been doing this probably for the last 6 or 7 years at least, copywriting images on a kind of a regular basis. And so I've kind of got this down a little bit, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that process now. First though, I want to touch on why you might want to copyright images. You might have heard that idea before, that an image is copyrighted as soon as you create it. And while that may be true, what we're talking about here is getting the additional protections that copywriting your work gives you. Mainly, it's your ability to basically go to court and say, hey, you guys used my image without my permission, you need to pay me X amount, and have a court agree with that and provide you those monetary damages. That's something you just can't get without taking the steps to copyright your images in the first place. So we're going to go through that process here, and as an example, I've got this folder up here of images that are just shots I took while on a trip to Chicago and Iceland. And I'm just going to quickly just kind of scroll. These are really some of these are kind of just boring kind of shots, and then there's some family shots in there and just very generic kind of images in here. But there are a couple, especially when I get down into the Iceland section, of certain things, well, not those, like these kind of images that I was messing around with, and just beautiful coastline shots that I want to protect. So rather than go through piecemeal and try to figure out which images I want to copyright, I'm just going to do the whole batch of them. And that's something that the Copyright Office allows you to do. You do not have to submit each image you want to copyright at a time and pay the fee. While you can do that, the better way, especially when you have a collection of images like this, is to copyright the whole collection as one batch. There are some rules for doing that. Mainly, that whole collection in this case cannot be published material. So all of these images have to be published or unpublished as a group. So in this case, they are unpublished. I have not shared these images except for a couple that I put on Facebook, and I've taken those images out of this collection. So they're unpublished as far as what the Copyright Office wants. And they're also the same type. So you can't mix, for example, painting images and for photographs of paintings and these types of photographs. They all have to be the same type of image generally. And so I have all my photos together here for this trip. And if I later produce some artwork pieces, let's say 2 or 3 in the span of a couple weeks, then I would wait and do those as a batch just to save money on the fee. So you notice I have them all here in this folder, and I've got this, I've called it Eric Doggett Studios 2017-03-20. So that's today's date. So I'm going to come over here and right click on this folder and just say compress. And that's just going to make a zip file of that folder. Let's see, where's it at? It's over here. On this other monitor, I'm going to drag it over. There we go. So now I've got a zip file. That's what I'm actually going to submit in a second here. So here we are at the Copyright Office webpage. It's copyright.gov, and basically you're going to go over here to register a copyright, and then you can learn a little bit about the different categories of material you can copyright. Ours falls under the visual arts for artwork, and you can also do photographs, which we're going to do for this section here. So I'm going to say log into the Copyright Office. Now, to log in, you've got to go through the process of creating an account. If you haven't done that before, meaning you're going to need, I think, either a social security number or an employment identification number, one of those, to get that process going. But once you're in, then you have the account that you can always use. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here with my username and password. And once I do, it's going to show me current cases. They call these cases when you make submissions to be copyrighted. They're kind of cases that have different statuses, and there's an older one there. So on the left, you can get a list of open cases that are still in process, registering a new claim, which is what we're going to do, You can also use a template, which I've messed with a little bit before. If you get into this a lot, you can create your own templates, which makes it a little bit easier when you're doing subsequent submissions. So for now, we're going to say register a new claim, and we're going to go through a series of steps. The first one's going to ask a couple questions, basically asking, first off, are you the one that's registering? Are you registering actually one work or a collection of work? So this gets to that thing I was talking about earlier. I'm not registering one work. I'm doing a collection, so I'm going to hit no for there. Am I the only author and owner? I'm going to say yes. And does this work I'm sending contain material created only by this author? Yes. So I have the only one that's created this work. Kind of sounds like the same as the question prior, but basically yes to both of those. So I'll say start registration. And now you can see on the left, here are the steps we're going to have to go through. You'll find a lot of it kind of seems repetitive in terms of the information they're asking, but we're going to work through this pretty quickly here. So the type of work I'm going to say is a work of the visual arts, because these are photos, and they kind of let you know what types of those are included in that category. And I have selected the right one, so I'm going to say continue on to that. Now we're going to go on to titles. So I need to title this. So this gets to why over here I gave this file that particular name. In Evernote, I keep a list of all of my copyright submissions. And so this is a way that I can go back later and see what I submitted on a certain date, what was included in that. And I've kept this kind of naming scheme up for several years, and so it's worked really well. So I'm going to say new, and the title of the work being registered is going to be Eric Doggett Studios 2017 0320. I hit save. Now it's showing me what I've just named it, so I'm going to say continue. Now we're on to the next part, which is publication completion. And this basically says, is this work published or not? So I talked about this earlier. Has it been on a website? Has it been on your blog, or somewhere that people can see it separate from, you making a print and having it at home, something like that? I'm going to say no, it has not been published. The year of completion is 2017. I don't have a pre-registration number. You can kind of set a registration up ahead of time, sort of like a template kind of scenario, and put that number in there, but I don't have that, so I'm going to say continue. And now it wants to know who the authors are. Now, there are going to be a couple sections here coming up where it's going to say, give me the personal information of, the author, or their address, or who to mail the certificate to. Luckily, they give you this button over here called Add Me, which lets you add your own information. So I'm going to say Add Me here. And it's kind of pre-put my name. There's just a couple more things that they put the red asterisks here. I'm just going to say United States for both of those. This is the individual author, so actually who created the work. And what work as part of the submission I created. In this case, it's photographs. Gonna hit save. Now we're to the author section. I'm sorry, we're at the author section. It shows my name here, and we're good to go on that. So we're going to say continue. The next section up is claimants. So the claimant, I'm guessing, can be the person who can make a claim on this copyright material, even if it's separate from the author. In this case, it's me. I'm both claiming it and the person who created it. So again, I'll say Add Me. And got my information there, so I'll say save. All right, that looks good down there, so I'm now going to hit continue. The next section is the limitation of claims. So if there's anything in this particular submission that I can't claim, some particular part that's been previously registered or previously published or in the public domain, something like that, I can enter that here. None of that applies. It's all original new work, so I'm just going to say that it's all good to go. Basically, just hit continue. And this is the rights and permissions section, and this is basically providing contact information for some purpose. I'm not sure which particular purpose is going to be available for, but I usually just say Add Me. There's my information there. Continue. This is the person. We're now in the correspondence section, so if the Copyright Office has any questions, who do they contact about? And I've had this happen before where I've made submissions and they've emailed me back saying, hey,
you incorrectly put this or you were unclear on this section. So it's good to make sure that you add yourself and that all that information is good all the way around. So continue. This is the certificate section. So where should that certificate be mailed? So as part of the submission, you will get a printed certificate in the mail a couple months after you submit it. It doesn't mean that the copyright is not active until that point. It's active as soon as you complete this process. It just takes a couple months for the certificate to get to you. So I'm going to say add me here and continue. So this is the special handling section. Here you can request basically expedited processing. It's ridiculous. It's like several $100s. I want to say $600 or $700 for them to expedite the process of getting you the certificate. And usually you're going to use it like it says here if you've got some litigation or some customs issue or something like that. I am not going to click special handling. I don't need it. But I do need to come down here and hit this, that I certify that I am the author and copyright and all of that. I hit continue. Okay, wait, I messed that up. This is not needed unless you turn on special handling. See, I get confused because special handling checkbox is here and this is in the same area. You don't need to hit anything on that section. Okay, this is the one where I certify. So this is the certification section. So I'm going to basically certify it here that I am the author and the claimant and the owner and all of those things. And I'm going to put my name here. And continue. So now we get this sort of summary page here, and a lot of this is going to be blurred out because I'm going to be hiding addresses and things like that, but basically it's giving you a summary of everything you've just entered. The title, whether it's published or not, its date, claimants, permissions, where to mail the certificate, all these different things. Now you'll see at the top here, you now have this button that says Save Template. So you can save this as a template for something you may want to resubmit in the future. So let's say all this information stays the same and all I'm going to do is change the title, or maybe whether it's published or not. I can go in, use a template, make those changes, and then say OK for everything else, and I'm good to go. So for this case though, we're good to go on this. So I'm going to say add to cart. And it's showing that the fee is $55 for this, and this is why you want to do bulk submissions whenever possible of like-minded material. So collecting a bunch of unpublished photographs or unpublished artwork, things like that, so that you can avoid having to pay this fee every time you want to copyright a particular image. It just makes no sense to do this on an individual basis unless you have some really pressing need for it. So I'm going to say checkout, and what they're going to do now is send me off to a payment processing thing. So I'm basically going to say pay with a credit card here, and now I go off to, it's saying I'm going to leave the website and go to their online payment site, and basically I'm going to pause this video here, enter this information in, and hit continue, and we're going to pick it up where that payment is complete. All right, so we're back. So I've completed the screen where I enter all the payment information in, and it's telling me the payment's successful. I just need to hit continue to complete the process. So I'm going to hit continue. And now this is the part where we upload our what they call assets. So basically the zip file which contains all the images and any other material we want to include. Now, what I normally do is I will sometimes upload both the zip file and the individual images here. So we're going to give that a shot. I'm going to say select file to upload, and I'm going to go to the desktop and first pick this zip file which contains all the images. I didn't touch too much on the images themselves, so you don't need to upload the full high-res versions of your images. I usually upload images sized to around 900 pixels because it's a good trade-off between seeing the detail and having a small file size. So they're not looking for the highest resolution assets for you to upload. 900 pixels or so is fine. I'm also going to select inside this folder all of those images there. There we go. So I'm going to hit the start upload button here, and it's going to start sending those files up, and you can see it's pretty quick, at least with these smaller files. So I'm going to pause the video here and pick it up once the main zip file is uploaded. All right, we're back, and the website is finished with all of the uploading it needs to do for that zip file. So as you can see here, it says successfully uploaded for everything. When you're done doing this, there's usually a button over here on the side for completing the whole submission process, and because I have so many files, I need to scroll down a little bit to see that button. It's right there. Click here to complete your submission after uploading all your files. So now you get this screen, which tells you, if you look here in the yellow section, the claim submission is completed, no further action is required. So at this point you're done. You've submitted it, it's being processed. You will get a couple different emails. First off, you're going to get like an email about your payment processing going through, and then you're going to get an email, like a confirmation of receipt email, which says you have submitted something to the Copyright Office, and then lastly you'll get a final email saying, hey, we've got all your uploaded assets. So I'm waiting on that last email to come in to show you, but in the meantime, I do want to mention a book that's really helpful for this. It's called The Copyright Zone, a legal guide for photographers and artists in the digital age. And it's by two guys out of New York called Ed Greenberg and Jack Reznicki. And listened to a lot of talks they've both done at different photography conferences, and to me they're really the experts on this. And they have this book, the second edition of this book, which really goes into detail for how to protect yourself. It's you know, probably more focused on the photography side a little bit, but it just generally talks about protecting your images, and they've done a lot of that with their work, because Ed's a lawyer and Jack is a photographer, and they've both worked together on, I know some of Jack's images have been litigated, so it's really two good people to get some experience from. I'm going to include a link to that book below in the notes, and also to their website too. Alright, so I've gotten all three emails from the Copyright Office, and just really quickly you're going to get this first email, which is a confirmation saying that you've paid the fee for the submission. You'll also get this confirmation of receipt email, which assigns a number right here. So there's my number right there, and I can use that to check the claim. That's also how I tag submissions in Evernote, with a list of all the images that I included in that submission. And then lastly, you'll get this email, which is an acknowledgement of all the image files that you uploaded. So here I have the main zip file and a ton of individual files. And if you go over back to the copyright page, you'll now see, in this case, I have my new case submission right here. It's the status is open. The upload status is complete, but the status is open. And you can still see I have this one from November, which is still outstanding. But that's pretty much it. It's a pretty straightforward process. Once you get doing it a couple times, it kind of becomes second nature. And like I said, I really recommend doing this. It's a way to protect your images in the kind of small chance case that somebody uses it for an advertisement or something like that without your consent. It's the way to get the most protection, the most fees in terms of damages in a courtroom later on.
All right, it's over. We did it. Thanks a lot for watching. If you found this video helpful, I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe below, and be sure to check out that link I mentioned below in the description regarding that book and website. All right, thanks so much. I will see you on the next video.